The CPI report, Child Protection in Iowa, is brought to you by Vocal, Victims of Child Abuse Laws. You can watch this program on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and again it's repeated on Wednesday evening at 9:30 on Mediacom Cable Channel 15 in Des Moines. This tape is also being played in the Council Bluffs, Omaha area on Cox Channel 23, July 23rd, 4:30 p.m. This program will be aired. You can email us at vocaliowa@mchsi.com. My number is 515-276-3956. John's number is 515-282-2672. We take phone calls from parents that are involved with the DHS. We try to help them on a one-to-one basis. My name is Don Burgmaier, and with me at the controls is my co-host,
John Harvey, and welcome to the CPI report. Yes, we do. Although we're not lawyers, we do assist people who are having difficulties with the Department of Human Services. This is an organization that has gone totally out of control. One of the women that noticed this way back in the 80s, I thought I had her picture around here, but didn't get it into the studio in time to show it. But the way she got mixed up with the Department of Human Services was the fact that she slapped her 13-year-old daughter. Now, those of you in the viewing audience probably never had a rebellious, mouthy, sassy teenager around, but this lady admits that she did have such a girl in her home, and she attempted to set some boundaries for that child, and part of those boundaries was illustrated by cuffing her one time. And there are individuals in the Department of Human Services who consider any kind of corporal punishment to be evil. Well, 90% of American families have spanked their children, and this lady did cuff her child. That was not an important factor for 3 years until it was brought up in divorce proceedings. Then it became a child abuse report, and the child had to be protected from something that happened to her 3 years prior to that. Well, it just disrupted the lives of the child, disrupted the lives of the mother, and she went to work to help others in the Ottumwa area. And by the way, we're thinking about dropping in on the scene in Ottumwa with this program. Don't have things completely set up yet, but sooner or later we'll be in the Ottumwa area. And the lady that you've seen on this program before says that she's getting 3 or 4 calls a week to assist with problems with the Department of Human Services. That's way too many. That's way too many to deal with, and she's not really pleased with the way the department is dealing with her or the people with whom she associates. Well, Don, you have a story that comes from an associate of ours from a long ways back. This is a mother in Dubuque who, unlike the other families that we deal with, has never had a child abuse report written against her. But that doesn't mean that she didn't come into real conflict with the Department of Human Services. And I think she got up on her high horse. Her email is called Shelby's Voice because she watched over the case of Shelby Dewis. You'll hear something about that in this story that Don has for us right now. Don?
She starts out by saying, if only the grandparents realized that blaming Iowa DHS will be the kiss of death. As
She's talking about the grandparents of who?
I asked you that earlier, and
That's the grandparents of the little girl.
Shelby Dewis?
No, the little girl in Floyd, who is no longer with us. She drowned in the Cedar River.
Okay, but she goes on to talk about Shelby Dewis here.
Right.
As I sat through Shelby's killer trial, it occurred to me that Iowa's DHS was testifying for her murderer. DHS had a witness on the witness stand, and the witness was testifying for the murderer. Strange, I thought, until I realized that despite the fact that dozens of people came forward and reported having notified DHS of Shelby's circumstances, there was one thing that DHS would not be able to counter. That would be a jury of her killer's peers finding him guilty. If it was so obvious to them that DHS should surely have taken some action. In addition, District Judge Frank B. Nelson decided any testimony regarding meth used by Shelby's mother and boyfriend would be prejudicial, so he ordered it withheld from the jury. Don't forget, before I continue on there, you remember the last director we had at DHS, John?
Yeah, I sure do.
Got a knock at the
Studio door. Yeah, okay.
What was our ex-director's name again?
Rasmussen.
Jesse Rasmussen.
Uh-huh.
She, when this Shelby Dewis issue started, she was saying that the DHS did no wrong. And she continued to say that for 6 months. And then her story changed because DHS and the social worker did wrong. Well, sometimes the truth does come out. I'll go on with the next paragraph. Don't forget Jessica Gage, another child murdered while under the care of Iowa DHS. It was announced this evening that her murderer's trial will be held in Davenport, Iowa, instead of Western Iowa, which the defense requested. That is a blow to the defense. Let's hope that the law doesn't ensure another Shelby outcome by fixing the judge's instructions to this jury. And then she moves on to the Bentley trial. The first-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping trial of Roger Paul Bentley will be held in Scott County, a judge ruled this morning. Bentley, 38 years old, is accused of the March abduction and killing of 10-year-old Jessica Gage, can find a fair jury pool in Scott County because of its population and in its distance from Lynn and Johnston counties, Judge Patrick Grady said. The Scott County Courthouse, located in Davenport, is about 55 miles east of Iowa City and has a population of about 160,000 people. Johnston County has about 116,000 residents. Grady said he was persuaded by the defense attorney's claim that a fair trial cannot be held in eastern Iowa because of excessive media coverage, but said defendants may not pick and choose a trial venue. But he also said he was not swayed by Johnson County Attorney J. Patrick White's argument that any trial in Council Bluffs would be an inconvenience for how do you pronounce her name?
Jessica.
Jetseta.
Oh, Jetseta.
Jetseta.
Uh-huh.
Jetseta's family. The court's duty remains to find a county where a fair trial can be held. That's their duty. Let's see if they can do it.
Okay.
Grady said in his ruling, based on the numbers provided, this court finds that this case has received less than half of the coverage, at least in terms of volume, in the Scott County area than in the Cedar Rapids, Iowa City area. Grady did not set a trial date. Court hearings connected to the case will remain in Johnson County.
Johnson County. Uh-huh.
However, Bentley himself also will remain jailed in Lynn County so he can keep in regular contact with his lawyers. The piece below from an article in the Des Moines Register shortly after Shelby was murdered. She's got a web address here to the Des Moines Register talking about Shelby's murder. Even this account cannot begin to to describe the grisly photos of the little blonde girl beaten to death beyond recognition earlier this month. Now this goes back how far back this is Shelby Deuce's case.
It's probably 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years ago. Shelby, lying motionless in her pajamas and a filthy diaper, had massive bruises around her head that doctors would later say went all the way through to the skull plate. Her mouth and tongue were badly bruised. Her hands were broken. The writer of this paper said in every hearing on Shelby Deuce that so she heard everything that went on and everything that the jury heard. And so she's reporting some of it here. An autopsy showed that 6 of her ribs had been fractured, perhaps weeks earlier. She had scarred intestines, which Olson said could have come from being punched and kicked over several months' time. As the Dickinson County medical examiner, Olson has seen corpses before and has been called to grisly traffic accidents. Olson said, "Nothing compared to this." Since Iowa didn't have the ability to bring this little girl's murderer to justice, what chance does Jessetta Gage or Evelyn Miller have? As you remember, in Shelby's case, the boyfriend was found innocent by a jury of his peers. That article was signed by Shelby's Voice. John, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. We spoke a little bit ago about the lady in Ottumwa, and I stepped out of the studio long enough to pick up her picture from a newspaper from quite some time back. This is Shirley Toomey. She's leaning against a bench that she authored. This is one of those transit benches that you sit on waiting for the bus, and it's just outside of the courthouse in Wapello County in Ottumwa. And so everybody that goes into the courthouse gets to see this. It says, have you been victimized by your county's Department of Human Services and court system? If it's yes, get an out of control system under control.
Say
and
that
the name,
again.
Get an out of control system under control. And the name of her organization was Searching for Justice, and she put a P.O. box there, and she got calls from people in Ottumwa, and they used to meet. Box 1623.
That's no longer being used.
Right, but it was very important. In fact, someone consulted an attorney there, and they said, "Well, if you want some help why don't you go down and look at that bench down by the courthouse and contact that person. And sure enough, they went to see Shirley Toomey.
It's
Well,
my guess it's not being used.
yeah.
Shirley is no longer able to do it. She's had a stroke or two
Oh,
since then, and
she's had a stroke. She's been hit by a truck. She's
that's
had all
true.
kinds of.
And if you put that picture back up again, John, when I first saw that, it looked like her arms were amputated leaning on the bench.
Right.
But no, it's just the way the picture looks. But
Yeah.
she fought the agency for many years, helping parents down there. But physically, life has taken a toll on her, so she is
You bet.
not doing much anymore in regards to the DHS.
Right.
But we got another person that's working on it down there, Linda Downs, that we've talked about before.
Sure.
So there's help in that area yet, as well as we can help if somebody gives us a call. Okay, John.
Yes. She met with people on a regular basis. In fact, I think at one point she was meeting with people at the Hardy's restaurant every week, because they were getting hit by the Department of Human Services. Well, she was hit by a truck, but nothing quite so disastrous as getting hit by the Department of Human Services. Well, let's turn very quickly here to our courthouse reporter. This is the one who is the judge of judges. And so we're going to find out what's on the court scene right now by turning to Terrance Walker.
Thanks again, John and Don, for having me on the show. And yes, I am the self-proclaimed judge of judges. Somebody has to do it. I guess it's got to be me here in the state of Iowa, because obviously the judicial qualifications is not stepping up to the plate on this matter, since they've only removed 5 judges in the past 30-something years. And I don't even think they've reprimanded hardly that many either. But yeah, my name is Terrance Walker. I had an organization called Vote Iowa Judges Out. VJO is the acronym. And we are trying to get these judges out of office. I heard an interesting story the past couple days. About, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, National Public Radio. They had an interesting fellow on there talking about the history, the prehistory of the American Revolution. And I thought it was interesting. I thought I would share that with the audience out here. What had transpired prior to all these Crispus addicts getting shot, and the Boston Tea Party, and the American Revolution, and the War of 1812. What had happened prior to all this is that the commoners in the state of Massachusetts were basically ruling themselves for the most part, 150 years. Well, the Crown in Britain didn't apparently like this idea. One day in, I guess one year, 1774, I believe, they opted to have their own appointees rule as counselors and judges in this matter. And the people were not able to basically elect the people from Massachusetts, as people were appointed directly from Britain. Well, what the commoners did is they gathered up the militia in these towns, in several towns. I think Whistler was one of them in particular. They took their militia and descended upon a couple of these towns, forced these judges to remove themselves, basically. And this is not an era in which they had, TV and all of that. So, they made these people come out, the counselors and the judges, basically renounce their office and say that they quit and they're retiring. And they had to essentially do it in front of crowds about one time I think it was 10,000 people, another time I think it was 20,000 people. And they made them recite their renouncing themselves from the office some 30 times so that everybody could hear it. They basically kicked these I mean, not self-appointed, I should say Crown-appointed people out of office. And this is what led up to the other confrontations in which there were bloody incidences of the revolution. These incidents were basically bloodless parts of the revolution, but it just goes to show you these historical moments, which are not as glamorized as the incidents in which we all know about the American Revolution. It basically shows you how powerful they were, because these were the incidences that I think are more noteworthy, because people had rose up, got tired of the injustice, did something about it, kicked the perpetrators out of office, and went about their business. And I thought it was also interesting how the Crown tried to limit the amount of dialogue that the people were having about issues which concerned them. Some of the towns would have town meetings every week or every month. Well, what the British Crown tried to do is tell them that they could only have it once a year, and that they would have to elect someone from their pool of candidates, which were pre-screened by the British Crown. And I think it was only right that the people rose up, saw the injustice of it, kicked the people out, and kicked the judges out, got them out of office, made them renounce their office, and I think that's a lesson. It should be it's a seed of knowledge in there for us, I think, that we should learn from in this day and age, because we've got a lot of judges in office. The judiciary has been really in repute this past couple of years, and I think that it's finally coming to head here in this nation. Maybe we should all kick these guys out of office. Well, we don't have to use guns or the militia. In Iowa, we have what's called the retention vote, which comes up every 2 to 4 years or 8 years, depending on what level of judge the judge is. And all we have to do is vote these turkeys out. So there we have it. And I think that that's a lesson in history that we should take to heart. John, you was going to show, well, you had a comment, Don?
Some people research the bar, the court bar, what else would you describe it as, Terrance? Polk County Bar Association, Iowa Bar Association, all the judges that are under that, they have their oath. The bar goes back to England, according to several people that I've talked to that have done in-depth research on that. So we still have a connection to England.
Yeah, and I think what's troubling is that, instead of having something of the people, by the people, we've got this sort of same situation where you have a bunch of people here that are the elite of some sort of society, and they have a political connection, so to speak, so they get appointed and hold office and all that. They're not necessarily supported by the commoners, you and I. They're supported and appointed by the elite. So, same situation, I think. One other thing I wanted to bring up, we do have, I thought it interesting, week to week, John and Don, you guys bring up a lot of stories about the DHS and the Child Protective Services, which is a nationwide name for the same kind of organization the DHS is. The thing that they are doing here every couple weeks, I see in the Court of Appeals, is they're basically rubber stamping the DHS's petitions to terminate child support. And people bring that on appeal, and of course it gets decided most of the time in the Iowa Court of Appeals. I yet to see one case where they basically said that the termination was wrong. They basically rubber stamp it. And here's a case in interest right there. It's I just just wanted to show you this here.
I think you used the word support as termination of parental rights.
Yeah, they basically rubber stamped the decision of the lower court to terminate the rights. In this case, I believe, was in the case of Jeff and Jolene from Warren County here. This is filed July 13th, and this was a termination of parental rights, and of course they affirm it like they always do. If they terminate the rights, it's affirmed almost all the time. I've yet to see a case where they haven't terminated. And you see about a dozen or so of these every other week. Can you go to page 3 of that? I was going to say, say something, Jim Don.
You said that you've never seen a case that's... John, did you want something?
Yeah, page 3.
Can't follow
Yeah,
it.
page 4. Just the 4th page of that. Just I was going to show you something on there as well, on that case, the 4th page of that case, Don. If you can. I know he's going to say something as well. But yeah, that this case, one of the things I think is also troubling is that, you know, this is something I also see is that it says that Jeff points out that under section 232.1163A, the juvenile court may forego termination of parental rights if a relative has legal custody of the child. Well, it is within the sound, well, they say that it's interpreted to be permissive, not mandatory, and it is within the sound discretion of the juvenile court. And, well, they didn't choose to say that the court violated its discretion, so they went ahead and rubber stamped the termination anyway. And I think that it's wrong. That, you know, if you've got a relative that the child can live with, that knows the you know, that's familiar with the child already, I don't see why that would not be in the best interest of the child to have a child with the relative. You know, why would you want to change the associations, all the associations of the child, and not only would that child have a hard time adjusting to the new people, the new surroundings, the new environment, it would just make it that much harder for that child to live, I think. And, you know, why would you want to sever all relationships of the child? I just think that there's no wisdom in that form of policy that they have with the termination of rights, and not even giving a second thought to giving the child to someone that they would know as a relative. But you had some comments on that, didn't you, Don?
No, I'll turn it over to John.
Okay.
No. I thought you had a word or two to say there.
All right. And then one other thing I was going to share with the public here. There's also in the Court of Appeals, I thought this was another interesting case of rubber stamping. Oftentimes in these cases, the courts, you know, I guess they get tired and they don't want to really exercise too many brain cells up there. So what they do is they do what's called a opinion without an opinion, or affirmance or denial of an appeal without an opinion. This is one such case here, July 13th, the Iowa Court of Appeals, case of Marilyn Wisecup and Lee Charles Wisecup. If you could scroll down to the bottom of there, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. This is what they get. They probably filed 30-page briefs, but this is all they got out of that. The decision of the district court is affirmed without opinion pursuant to our rule of procedure, appellate procedure 6.24. So there you go, all your hard-earned lawyer fees and court fees, and you get one sentence.
So they just thumb their nose at the couple.
Well,
So-
whoever filed that appeal, they thumbed their nose at them and
Yeah.
basically said, well, thank you for paying our attorneys and paying our court fees, and we're just going to go ahead and affirm this, and we don't have to tell you why we're affirming it.
Right.
We'll just point to a rule. Maybe you can look it up. Maybe the rule makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. But we're judges and we're above you, and that's that. Another issue, one other issue I wanted to point out is that I think there's been a big to-do about the United States Supreme Court, Iowa Supreme Court, basically throwing the 10 Commandments out of courthouse buildings and things of that nature. The Iowa courts basically have recently, I guess the chief judge, if I remember correctly, a couple weeks ago said that they're not going to have 10 Commandments in any of the buildings here, courthouse buildings here in the nation, or in the state, I should say. Well, this should be no mystery, because, well, you can't have thou shalt not cheat, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal in a building full of judges. That's what's called, it would create a hostile work environment. And because we've got a lot of that going on in the courthouses. They're stealing your kids. They steal them for free, and they basically sell them for free, for a fee. And you know, this is what goes on all the time with the DHS. Not only do they steal your kids, but they also lie a lot of times in these legal opinions. They lie by outright changing the facts, using these results-oriented judicial opinions where they come up with the opinion first and the justification second. But they also lie by omitting your facts, omitting your legal issues. This they do all the time. They surely must have did it in this case where they didn't issue any sort of opinion at all and affirmed it without an opinion. Your whole appeal is basically decided, and you don't know why it's decided or how it's been decided. So, you know, this is what goes on is indicative of this courts, and I think that that's why we need to act on this. And if you feel the same way, I think you should contact us, and we'll air your grievance and hopefully get your example on the show, so everybody else can see what's going on in your neck of the woods.
Absolutely.
Or with your case.
Okay.
But did you have any comments, John, or Dan?
No, not on that. Not on that particular issue.
Okay.
I think that was a good discussion, though, and I like the discussion, the pre-revolution discussion.
Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting
Commentary.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting on the National Public Radio when I heard that. You never do hear anything about except for the people getting shot and the confrontation at the Boston Tea Party and all this other junk, but you don't hear anything what happened, the bloodless part of the revolution, which was people just took over and said, get out of office, and you know, we're going to make you renounce your office, and we want everybody to hear it. So say it. I hope say it to everybody 30 times, and you know, from what the guy was saying on National Public Radio, it was the topic was the People's Revolution. What he's also saying is that people in the back would say, well, we couldn't hear you back there. We couldn't hear you back there. So the judge would then have to say it again. Well, we renounce our office, and this is why we renounce our office. And I guess they had a statement prepared for them to show that they renounced their office, and that was a good thing.
That's good. There was a when I married my wife, she had 2 children, and one of those children is Jeff, Darren, Harvey. His birthday comes up the first time that this is shown in Des Moines, July 17th, and that birthday doesn't change. I think his name probably has changed to Jeff Darren Brandt, but this young man is no longer a young man. He's headed for 38 this birthday time around. Well, I visit the Department of Human Services from time to time, their council meetings, and take recordings, video recordings of what goes on, so that I can put those recordings on television, so that people can hear it straight from the horse's mouth as to what is being said. And the most recent meeting that I went to was a budget hearing, in which people from all over got to come over and have their hands out for more money in the next budget year, which is 2007. They like to work well in advance to get these funds all lined up. One of the funds that they mentioned that they seem to want to get their hands on are called TANF funds. That's TANF, and they use the acronym TANF funds. These come down from federal government sources, and also I believe that the state chips in a little bit for on TANF funds. TANF stands for Temporary Assistance to Needy Families. But when I listen to the cries for money, the TANF funds are an ideal target to get money for everything but needy families. One of them I noticed was from the Boys and Girls Club. As fine organization as that might be, why are they using funds that are set up by Congress for temporary assistance to needy families? That isn't temporary assistance to needy families. And I think they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes when they talk about things of that sort. What I did was I recorded 4 of the 5-minute discussions. So as we look at this program, you can pick up on the where they ask for TANF funds and so forth. But these are from different organizations. They have differing views, differing roles, and sometimes I think the roles may intersect, may overlap one with the other. But that's the way they do business here in Iowa, is to overlap things. Well, this is what it looks like. Let's see if we can get a picture here. But we're going to go in and listen to these organizations as they put out their pleas for more money, and they're also overly thankful for money that they've gotten so far, which I think is great to be thankful that the DHS was able to hand out all kinds of money. The first thing plea you'll get is from an organization that deals with respite care, coming in and providing care as a stopgap for the current caretakers. Well, let's see what rolls here, and see if we can get our camera up and running. For some reason, we're not getting a picture, Don, and I'm not really sure why. We may have to do some checking out here, and because it isn't quite clear, this program was going off pretty good early on.
Did you want to talk about something else?
Yeah, maybe we'll switch to Terrance here for a moment.
Yeah, I thought the article there, I thought you guys were going to do the article on the mother sues the state for racketeering.
We were, but we didn't
running out of time here, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do
Well,
you want to make a comment on it?
well, yeah, I think it's a very interesting. I think we should share that with people too. I don't know if you happen to have another copy. The mother sues the state for racketeering. I think this is very interesting. It goes back to my comments that they take your kids for free and sell them for a free fee. Now, Starletta Banks has not seen her 3 children, Darius, now 11.
Okay.
Maybe somebody got
Daniel.
a
Okay.
misunderstanding there, but
Guess we'll get back
I
to
hope
this.
that's
another
not
time.
right, but if it
We'll
is, I
pause
think
that
it needs to be rethought.
for just a moment.
If we can't provide services to folks who are at imminent risk, do we tell
We'll stop that for just a moment until we get it pretty well set up. I'm sorry, we'll interrupt.
But yeah, this lady, I guess she's tired and sick and tired of the DHS in her state taking her parental rights away, and it seems like she's went through a pretty long ordeal. Not only has she had her kids taken from her, but her parents had the kids taken from them as well. And
be interesting to follow that, see how she comes out from time
and
to
it
time.
appears that the x-rays of a child that one of her children were supposed to be showed rib fractures, and now the family says that they must have been mixed up with another infant. And but yet the Court of Appeals didn't want to give the kids back, and not only is she exposing the error, but she's also exposing how not only the judges, but the doctors that testified against her, and a lot of the other officials are somehow involved with the child welfare agencies, and they don't disclose their conflicts of interest. You know, all the judges are on different task force and part of different associations or organizations which support child welfare. So, you know, she's not only what this lawsuit's doing, what she filed herself, is exposing a lot of conflicts of interest, but it's also exposing how much money is at stake here, and why a lot of these organizations get to be tainted by the huge amounts of money that are involved in the process of taking children and putting them in foster care.
Okay. Well, thank you for that note about this story. We should have left a little more time for this one to talk about it, but sometimes we run out of time. Let's go now to that budget hearing, and this is the fellow who's talking about respite care.
We need to really seriously think about that issue. We are concerned that there needs to be a strong and viable safety net throughout the state for children at risk of injury and abuse. The second point I would make is, and I'm going to sound like I'm repeating Jewel Reynolds, but that's fine. I would like to be in that company. And that is to encourage the council to look for ways of making services more flexible and responsive to families. You need to continue to dialogue with families to see what they need, how they need it, where they need it, when they need it. There's a thought that if we do that, we're going to have to provide so much more. Sometimes we'll actually provide less, but we'll provide it in a way that's much more meaningful to those families. We are a private nonprofit organization. We started a family program, a direct family access program in 2001, where we award respite dollars directly to families. We say, you have the money, you decide who you want to provide the respite, when you want to provide it, you train them, you select them, and we're going to send you the check after the service is done, and you reimburse them. And families love it because they can decide when, how much. Some families may go through that respite in a short period of time. Others may string it up all year long, but it's whatever makes most sense to that family. And I think that's very important in these tight budget times, that families have the ability to have services as flexible as they can and to provide them when and how they want them. Last night I was privileged to attend the Community Conversations meeting in Waterloo regarding the children's service design, and was asked for my reaction to that. I says, well, it looks good. But I reminded them that the devil is in the details. And how that's played out is going to be significant. And we talk about family-centered, but we need to make sure it really is family-centered. And as Jill said, we need to make sure that families are involved in the design, the monitoring, the evaluation, the redesign, the tweaking. We need to keep asking them, what is it that will do you the most good given limited dollars? We have to remember that particularly families with kids with disabilities are so skilled at getting by with so little. That's not a problem. They could teach us volumes about how to make things suffice for their family. So it's not that they're not willing to deal with lack of resources. It's let them have them in a way that does them the most good. And so we encourage you to continue to dialogue with them. we think the community conversations have been a very positive approach, and we hear good responses, good reports about those all around the state, and you're to be applauded for that effort, and we hope that you will continue to put what families really want and really need at the forefront. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Ellen Baylor, Iowa Juvenile Home Foundation.
Good morning. I'm the Secretary Treasurer on the Board of Directors for the Iowa Juvenile Home Foundation. And I'm here to talk to you about the 1920 college campus in Toledo that now houses the state's commitment to delinquent girls and the China girls or boys in need of multiple repairs. The Iowa Juvenile Home will begin the process so that work can commence on the geothermal heating and cooling system this summer with an appropriation that we got from infrastructure funds of $1.3 million this year and $1.5 million next year. We were afraid, that the boiler would blow up if we didn't start doing some of these repairs, and so we're thrilled that we got that appropriation. Besides the boiler and the geothermal system, Scow Cottage, as well as the school administration building, will be getting new roofs. This, however, is not enough. The juvenile home is aging ungracefully. Overcrowding and inadequate physical space cultivate a climate of disrespect and humiliation. We would like to have the support of the Department of Human Services for another $12 million infrastructure funds for the Iowa Juvenile Home in Toledo. Now, in fiscal year 2004, staff at the juvenile home served 229 youth. Most, about 79%, arrived below where they should be educationally, which is not a surprise since 70% were not attending school before they even arrived. The cottage staff coordinate with the educational staff for each student, and the fiscal year 2004 statistics show much better statistics for how the students do once they're allowed to attend classes and focus on their education. 51% get back in step with public school and society. 15% of the 17% designated as seniors graduated or received their GED certifications. 39 students had honor roll achievements. 126 received vocational certificates for formal training, and 143 received on-the-job training. For every month at IJH, each student gained 2 months in education. And these are the children in Iowa who are most likely to remain in Iowa and be our future workforce. These are not part of the brain drain kids that we lose from Iowa. So it's very important that we prevent these children from entering prison as an adult, which may be part of their schedule if we can't get their lives turned around. The intervention that they get at IJH and a turnaround in their education is vital to all of us. The staff in Toledo have made abundant opportunities for changes in the lives of these teenagers whom they serve, and we need the Department of Human Services to help them continue by ensuring the physical safety issues on the campus along with the new vocational education school building. IJH currently teaches vocational classes separate for boys and girls in food preparation, photography, career exploration, and retail merchandising. There is a waiting list for vocational classes. Students have expressed an interest in training and employment opportunities that go beyond what can be offered in an already crowded school building. We need construction of a new vocational school building. Plans also call for the relocation of a security department and the medical staff currently in the 1923 infirmary building to the lower level of the new vocational school building. Continued work on the cottages includes remodeling bathrooms and replacing drafty windows. Further infrastructure funding will positively impact the education, treatment, health, and safety of the youngsters at the juvenile home. And we hope that you'll give our request every consideration to support this separate appropriation in the next go-round. Let me tell you that I live in Marshalltown, and last week or 2 weeks ago, it was a pleasure to open my hometown paper and find out that Harvey had donated $25,000 a year for 2 years to give the juvenile home a new van and some gas money. One of the programs that the students participate in is every Thursday they go to the Hy-Vee in Marshalltown and they stock shelves and work and learn retail merchandising. The juvenile home works hard and to have innovative opportunities for these young people. The foundation last year in January just finished construction of a new library. We knocked out a wall and expanded the library, doubled the size. We got a couple grants and lots of donations from Iowans to help us put in all new books. And so we want to all work together to make every opportunity possible for these children. Thank you so much for the time today.
Sorry the chair cannot be here. She has her board meeting happens to be today. There are two items we wish to bring to your attention. First, we wish to express our appreciation to the General Assembly, to you, to the Department of Staff for the progress that was made on child care issues in the 2005 General Assembly, increasing eligibility levels, increasing provider rates, funding the quality rating system. Along with our thanks, we present a challenge. More needs to be done. The Child Care Advisory Council has been identifying barriers to quality child care. We've listed 6 of these for you that we have been discussing. Excessive red tape, lack of trained providers, lack of mandatory registration, low regulations, low reimbursement rates, a clear understanding of what high-quality child care looks like. Second, we bring to you today is our recommendation to redesign the child care subsidy co-payment schedule. Child Care Advisory Council on February the 10th unanimously approved 5 recommendations. Let me transgress. Some of you know that I have for years been promoting a change in the fee scale. This is a far more comprehensive and a different than what I proposed to you personally. Okay. 5 recommendations. 1, to continue the current policy to start co-payments at 100% of poverty. We considered starting it at 80%. 2, to make adjustments in co-payments in light of the number of children receiving care. At the present time, if you have 1 child, 2 children, 3 children, we pay exactly the same. This says give the single family, family with 1 child lower rates. Those with 3 higher rates, but capping it at the 3 level. You see this on a chart. Our third recommendation is to reduce the sliding fee scale minimum from 50 cents per 20 cents. That's on that initial start, that first cliff. And we arrived at that by saying that it would be well to have a payment of at least $8.
This program is also heard in Omaha, Council Bluffs area on Cox Cable, Channel 23. The first program will show up on July the 21st at 4:30 on Cox Cable, Channel 23, Council Bluffs.
Needed. The third thing that you have is your chart, which shows that original 20 cents, and then you'll note all the increments after that, 25 cents, which is 1/2 of what the present system is, which we think will be more user-friendly. And you'll note then the difference between the 1, 2, and 3 pay scale. Next, you will find the rationale that we submitted to the Julie, as the staff person from DHS, in terms of the rationale, the background, and then you will find on the last page the formula. The recommendation 5, mind you, was to use the chart developed by Mark Adams, member of the DHS staff, and move to a formula-based fee when DHS has the computer system needed to do that. And you can see the type of percentage which we hope that you will move to at that stage. But we've emphasized the fact that we would hope that you would not wait until the computer system is up and running to go to the formula-based method before you implement the recommendations that we bring before you. And would end with the statement that appears on the second page of what I attached to you. We trust that one of your future meetings, you will put on your agenda, Ruth, this item for discussion, so we can have a more full discussion with you on that item. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition for Family and Children's Services in Iowa. My members represent most of the major organizations that run children's homes, children's shelters, and provide services to children and families in the state. I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you this morning. Last year with the legislature, this is my third year, I think, in addressing you, and at times it seems very frustrating because we keep hearing the same refrain over and over of we don't have money, we don't have resources, we've got to make do with less or more efficiently and so on. That's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today. The department last year requested and helped us get a 3% increase last year. That was the first time providers have had an increase in it would have been in 6 years. It's pretty much a cost of living. But the good news is at least we aren't dropping any lower, and the department helped us get that, and we're very, very appreciative of that. With that said, 3% for a coming year doesn't make up for the losses of the past 5 years, and we still have a children's system that is very, very much in crisis from underfunding. And again, I don't have to tell you that. I'm here because your letter asked for ways to discuss partnering and sharing and hopefully working together. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you and be very brief about, hopefully this morning, is an example of what we went through, or what we have been going through in the past year with our children's shelters in the state. When I talked to you last year, we had 23 children's shelters in the state. Today, 3 of those shelters are out of business. They just simply didn't have the funding and they had to close. It was a crisis and it was coming up, and the department and Director Concannon recognized that we had a crisis, and they came up with a solution for that. Our proposal to meet our needs on that. And it was to offer a contract where they told shelters that they would have a guaranteed number of beds that they would get paid for, so that they could count on that income coming in, instead of some months having almost no children in that they got paid for, other months having lots of children. Now, children's shelters and providers that run children's shelters depend almost entirely on the department for their sources of income. So it's very important for us to know whether we're going to have kids that we need to care for or not. And I think children's shelters are the basic, that is the basic level of safety net in the state. I think it's critical we have those. The RFP came up with a guaranteed number of beds. We think it was a good plan. The department was working with a limited amount of resources, and we thought that that was a problem. Because you can't, no matter what the best plan is, if you don't have the money to implement it properly, you can't get there. So the coalition went to the legislature and talked to the legislature about it. The legislature agreed, and the legislature, when your appropriations bill came out, increased the number of beds. We were talking about an initial RFP for 240 to 250 beds. It appears that that was issued for about 240 beds. The legislature said, let's raise that to 288 and have 15, they call them at-large beds. We think that that's a help. You tell us, we come to you and you say, we don't have money, we sympathize with you, we want to help you, and we want to work with you also. We as providers have some resources, such as lobbying and so forth, that you don't necessarily have access to, and we can help. We think it can be a very effective partnership. But
Thank you for tuning into the
so far, we
CPI
aren't
report.
getting